Welcome to In Dark Places. What happens here stays here. I'm coming to you fresh off the heels of CrypticCon. And man, what a good time that was. That was cool. Me and my buddy Dwayne had a blast. We saw some of the folks that we saw back in 2019, last time we went. And we kind of reconnected with them and laughed about old times. And we met plenty of new people. It was great. And we were there surrounded by all these like-minded people, and nobody was snickering. Nobody had to whisper and hope that someone would overhear you talking about all this cool stuff. So it was fun to be around so many cool people. So I'd like to give a big shout out to the Northern Kentucky Bigfoot Research Group. I know Squatch, Rick Rillis with the BFRO, Cryptids of the Corn podcast. Those guys are cool. Midnight in Kentucky podcast. Met those guys back in 2019. They're still cool. Whitney Yaden Art. She had some cool works of art there. We love that. Zach Bills, the paranormal road tripper with the Nightmare Gallery. He was there. And the guys from the Hodag store out in Wisconsin, they were cool. Wisconsin Caps. So many cool people. So yeah, shout out to all those guys for being so nice and taking the time to talk to us. It was fun. And now, here is the Nicolas Cage Meltdown of the Week.
Please, Jack, give me a little credit.
He'll overcome you! I mean, what happens if you start screaming? It's like a jungle over there! He probably has servants and bodyguards, and believe me, they will drug you!
His son is gonna be there, Jack. His granddaughter, Tiffany, will be there.
She knows the kid's name already. Okay. Marry me tonight.
No!
No, why not?
Because I don't believe you. I mean, Jack, if you really wanted to marry me, you would have done it this afternoon.
And now, a look at the news. Florida police officer photographs UFO flying near Coast Guard plane doing at least 500 miles per hour by Douglas Charles. Thanks, Douglas. A police officer in Bradenton Beach, Florida of all places, photographed a mysterious UFO flying in the vicinity of a United States Coast Guard plane this week. Bradenton Police Department Officer Charles Morose was recently conducting a normal patrol along Coquina Beach when he spotted something in the sky that caught his attention. I reckon I saw a Coast Guard plane flying over the bay. And I watched him turn back toward the Gulf. I thought, what the heck is that? I looked up and I seen a big black thing in the sky, Morose said. Reckon I'm going to estimate based on the size of the plane in the sky. It was at least the size of a car. Maybe a small aircraft. The Anna Maria Island Sun, which has a copy of the photo, reports that Morose believes the Coast Guard's plane saw the UFO because it changed course and appeared to start following it. At first, the UFO appeared to be relatively stationary, Morose said, but when the Coast Guard plane started tracking toward it, the UFO took off. That thing had to be moving at least 500 miles per hour, said Morose. It just shot off like a rocket toward the horizon. It was just gone. I'm no UFO conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying it was from space or anything like that. But there was something in the sky. And I reckon it was hauling butt. Calls to the Cortez Coast Guard detachment by the Sun only resulted in them claiming there was no incident reported at the time of Morose's sighting. So it's kind of ironic that the policeman in that report said that the UFO was going 500 miles per hour. One might say it was synchronistic. You see, I had a dream about a UFO that was going 500 miles per hour. And in that dream, I called to tell Jimmy about my sighting. And if that wasn't weird enough, my dream was on the same day that BroBible.com printed that story. November 18th, 2022. And that brings us to this week's topic, synchronicity. Synchronicity is the simultaneous occurrence of events which appear significantly related but have no discernible causal connection. I had a weird synchronistic event when I was listening to a pre-edited version of last week's episode on my way to work. I was listening to Jimmy's story about the Ohio Grassman at the exact moment that there was a truck in front of me from Ohio Valley Flooring. Pretty crazy.
As soon as you mentioned we'll be doing a synchronicity episode in the future, I instantly remembered back in the olden days, before there was a Google, before there was an easy way to find an answer to something, I was doing a slideshow back in the olden days, based on my paranormal experiences with pictures, and I wanted to have music to introduce all the kind of chapters that I was doing. So I remember I remember exactly where I was driving, but I was driving thinking, I said, there's a particular song I really want to be the intro to one particular case. And I just couldn't remember it. There was no way of looking up, what is the song? Or I knew a few words of it, and there was no way back then. So anyway, and it's a song I didn't hear that often. Also, it hasn't been heard in a while. So the next song on the radio, as I'm thinking this song is called Santa Monica by Everclear. And then I said, thank you.
I am still living with your ghost.
That's all I was looking for. Thank you.
I always talk about how I'm always in Walmart. I live there. On November 21st, I was in Walmart, and I walked by the bicycle section. And as I go by the bicycles, I've always been in a habit of looking at the little bicycle license plates to see if I can find one with Brandon's name on it. And I haven't had any luck yet. I've been looking for 12 years. I did see something kind of weird, though. Like on the background part of their display box where it shows the employees where to put the license plate things and stuff. It's like a little picture of the actual license plates. There was a part on there, on the printed part, that had a Massachusetts license plate, and it said Dylan. And our friend Dylan Gray lives in Massachusetts. So if that would have been an actual little bike license plate, I would have totally bought that for him, but it was just a part of the box. But synchronicity still.
Okay, when I looked up synchronicities, one of the first things that pops up is the phenomena where people see 1111 over and over again, and they notice it all the time when it's 1111. There might be something behind that. My personal opinion, not that it matters, I think just because the number 1111 is symmetrical and pleasant to look at, I don't think you're going to notice so much when the time's 10:41 and say, oh my God, I see 10:41 all the time. But anyways, 3 years ago, on November 11th, I walked outside my house, and what I saw what appeared to be an angel in the form of a cloud right over my house. And a couple other people in the town also took this picture, and I created a whole page around it called the Angel Cloud Phenomenon on Facebook. And I also added some more pictures I found from around the world. I can't vouch for theirs, but anyways, I'm gonna read what the page description is. I've noticed many clouds around the world lately that some describe looking like an angel, phoenix, or even an elemental sylph. Is this a coincidence, or is something strange going on in our skies? I posted this picture taken on 11/11/18, which even that date has significance to some. Please share your pictures and let us know, when possible, who took the picture, where it was taken, the time taken, etc., etc. I said, are these a warning, a blessing, man-made, or just our imagination? Thank you, and enjoy the page. So even in my head, I was saying, just because I expected to see something in the sky in 11/11 Did that appear because I expected it to be there? Did the little people that live in the sky said, hey, let's screw with this guy and put something strange over his house that day? I don't know. But if you want to see that picture, maybe we could post it somewhere on the In Dark Places Facebook page. But anyways, that was my synchronicity that I'm talking about with you guys today. Angel Cloud on 11/11. Thank you.
I love explaining this one to the folks that think we came from monkeys. Just as we have remarkable coincidences, so does our solar system. The total solar eclipse is such a strange and unlikely occurrence that throughout history it's been interpreted as a paranormal omen in mythological folklore. Though the sun and moon are very different sizes, the phenomenon is able to take place because the sun is about 400 times wider than the moon, but also 400 times farther away, making the two appear the same size. According to Live Science, if the sun were any bigger or the moon were any further away, we would likely never see a total solar eclipse because the moon wouldn't appear wide enough to block our view. You see, because it happened for a reason, and monkeys still exist.
When searching synchronicity stories, I came across this one. It might not necessarily fit in the synchronicity category, maybe coincidence or premonition. I don't know, but it's a cool story, and I'm going to share it with you. One morning, the weekend before Halloween, my 13-year-old daughter came up to me and said, "Mom, today I'm going to meet the man I will marry." "How could you possibly know that?" I asked my daughter, who had never been boy crazy like her girlfriends, nor ever had a boyfriend or even date. "Because I've been asking God who I would end up marrying. And the next morning when I was praying, he told me I would meet my future husband today," she said matter-of-factly. Needless to say, fear struck my heart. My impressionable daughter believing this crazy idea would make for an interesting, if not scary, day. Today, I would definitely keep her close to me and keep a strict eye on her. That night, I knew we had plans to take my daughter and her friends to a haunted house. I asked her if she thought she was going to marry one of her friends. She said, "No, I'm sure it will be somebody totally new that I've never met before." Yikes, fear again. Nothing eventful happened all day, but that evening, the line waiting to go into the haunted house went down the street and around the block. The kids didn't seem to mind the long wait and goofed around in line and talked to others nearby. I kept a very close eye on my extremely attractive daughter. Come on, I am her mom, but others think her attractive too. I suspiciously eyed every boy who talked to her. Finally, our group of teens got to enter. I was behind the group and directly behind my daughter. Dark, scary fun, and long was the walk in the pitch-black, winding corridors. Suddenly, a man dressed as a Grim Reaper jumped right out in front of my daughter and scared her so badly she screamed and fell backwards, on top of me and those behind me, toppling all of us over. The now kind and sorry Grim Reaper helped us all up, and noting her extreme reaction of fear, he came out of character long enough to offer to sneak us out a side exit. She said, "No, it's okay," and we moved on, embarrassed. That night, my daughter was so disappointed when she says, "I was sure God told me I would meet him today." Fast forward 10 years, my daughter was the maid of honor for her best friend's wedding and gave a beautiful toast and prayer at the wedding. One of the men attending the groom was from out of state and took an interest in my daughter, emailing and calling her, after the wedding. Eventually, they engaged and married. After they were married, we were sitting around talking, and the subject of haunted houses came up. My Sil, I guess that's her name, said once, the dude, said he had once helped construct a haunted house in an old grocery store building when he spent a year in our town. Really? Yes, he said, and I got to be the Grim Reaper for it and carry a fake Sith. Comparing notes, they figured out that the exact year he had spent in our city was the year my daughter was 13. When asked if he remembered an incident in the haunted house with a frightened girl, he wasn't sure, as all young girls scream. But when he heard she toppled me and the others over, he came out of character to offer assistance out a side exit. Then he said, "That was you?" But that was just a little girl I offered help to. Usually I pride myself in never coming out of character, but she was so scared, and I worried people might have fallen and gotten hurt. Yes, a 13-year-old, 5-foot girl is just a little girl to a 19-year-old, 6'2" young man, as it should be. So my daughter did indeed meet her future husband that day. Amazing. And now they have been married for almost 13 years and have 5 children.
The chapel and we're gonna get married. Going to the chapel and we're gonna get married.
As told on an episode of National Public Radio's This American Life, Esther and Paul Gratchen had been seeing each other for a short time when Paul decided to ask her to be his girlfriend. It's like kicking the rocks around his feet and stuff. Like, will you be my girlfriend? And she's probably like, yeah, I guess we probably already was because we've seen each other for a short time. I don't know. As you were. That day, while paying for a sandwich, he noticed that a dollar bill he was about to hand the cashier had the name Esther written on it in pencil. How strange, he thought, that this should happen right when he was thinking about their relationship. He kept the bill and decided to frame it and give it to her as a gift. She was speechless when she saw it, but she told him to ask her about it later. Years passed, and they got engaged. And then they married. And then the framed dollar resurfaced in their home. Apparently, Esther had written her name on the dollar and a few others after a breakup, and said to herself at the time that she would marry the man that brought it back to her. She didn't tell him why she was speechless, because she thought bringing up marriage so soon in the relationship would scare him off. But she believed in that moment that he was the one.
So, listeners, individuals, fringers, listeners, there's a story that I have. I'm not necessarily I couldn't call it synchronicity, but I'm going to call it a weird coincidence maybe that happened to me. My daughter was about 3 years old, so that makes this around 2003. I was going to Home Depot with my 3-year-old daughter, and it was one of those hot days where I drove around the parking lot purposely to find a open spot that was underneath a tree, so the car wouldn't heat up and boil us later. So my daughter even noticed. She goes, "Dad, why did you park so far away from everyone else?" And I just didn't have the patience to explain to her, well, dear, because of the heat of the sun, because I was under the shade of the tree. So I came up with a reason that would be easier for her to understand. I said, "I parked under a tree because sometimes you find presents or surprises in a tree." I just made that up, okay? So she looks up, she goes, "Dad, look." She points up, and there was 3 bracelets, like little kids' bracelets, in the branches of that tree. One said faith, one said hope, one said believe. So I picked the bracelets down, I gave them to her, and that must have freaked her out. And it freaked me out, because I told her there might be presents of surprises in these trees, and there was. That's just something that still freaks me out. Thank you.
This story is called The Rejected Manuscript. A promising author was disturbed to find his manuscript on his front lawn. It was the manuscript he had given to his publisher in hopes of publication, but apparently it had just been thrown disrespectfully over his front yard fence. Did the publisher really dislike it that much? He called the publisher and asked why his work had been disregarded so tactlessly. The publisher explained that this was not the case at all. In fact, she had great hopes for the manuscript. So what happened? While she was dining at a restaurant, thieves broke into her car and stole several things, including the manuscript. Keeping the valuables, the thieves later just tossed the manuscript away over a fence, right into the author's front yard.
This one's called A Meteor Hit the Comet Family's Home. National Geographic reports that your odds of being killed by a meteor are 1 in 1.6 million. So the odds would seem infinitesimally small that a meteor, which has been flying through space for more than 4.5 billion years without hitting a target, would find the home of a family with the last name Comet. According to Time, in a bizarre case of cosmic synchronicity, that is exactly what happened to the family in France. Thankfully, no one was hurt, and the Comets are now the proud owners of their own extremely rare extraterrestrial rock.
I listen to a lot of podcasts while I'm at work and stuff because music is pathetic now. It's not really anything else to listen to but podcasts. One of the podcasts that I listen to is Monsters Among Us. The host is Derek Hayes. I met him at Crypticon back in 2019. Cool guy. And he wasn't there this year. But, no joke. I was listening to Monsters Among Us on my way to work right before Jimmy sent me that story about meteors. And Derek Hayes talked about that very story on the episode that I was listening to. Synchronicity. That was on Monsters Among Us, episode 1410. And it's kind of funny because Derek Hayes had a lot of synchronicities there a couple years ago when he was talking about Hellier Season 2, which dealt with Indrid Cold and synchronicities. In Hellier 2, we're listening to a spirit box, and the spirit box says something about a Vienna sausage can. So the guys from Hellier went out into this train tunnel and they found a Vienna sausage can, which told them that they were on the right trail of Indrid Cold. I don't know. I recorded this news story that I was planning on going to just playing the episode for next week. And then I continued listening to the episode of Monsters Among Us, and Derek Hayes talked about this very story, so I'm just going to play it on this episode too, since it's another little weird synchronicity. Air Force, FBI reportedly raid homes of Area 51 website owner by Andrew Mark Miller at Fox News. U.S. Air Force and FBI authorities have reportedly raided homes in Nevada belonging to a man who runs a website that posts information about the top secret Area 51 military base, which has long been rumored to house evidence of extraterrestrial life. The agents raided 2 homes belonging to Jorg Armu, who runs the Area 51 themed website dreamlandresort.com in 2 different Nevada counties. Earlier this month, the Las Vegas Review Journal reported Wednesday,
This is an open and ongoing law enforcement investigation between the Los Angeles FBI and Air Force OSI, said Lieutenant Colonel Byron McGarry, spokesman for Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas. In a statement to the outlet, Armu started Dreamland Resort in 1999, and the site features YouTube video of drone footage from over and around Area 51, satellite images of the base, discussion forums, and articles on various rumored top-secret projects involving UFOs. The site also features photos of super-secret aircraft being developed by the military. It is unclear what specific crimes are being investigated. The FBI and Air Force did not immediately respond to a request for comment from Fox News Digital, but Armu told the outlet that he believes the raids are an attempt to silence the Area 51 research community. Armu says his homes were raided without warning by 15 to 20 agents in full riot gear, and that he and his girlfriend were present at the Las Vegas home when detained and treated in the most disrespectful way. My girlfriend was led out into the street barefoot and only in her underwear in full view of the neighbors, Armu said. I was led outside handcuffed and only in a t-shirt and sweats in sub-freezing temperatures. Sub-freezing? This is in Nevada, right? Armu said that agents told him that the investigation was related to images posted on my Area 51 website. According to Armu, agents took all of his phones, laptops, hard drives, cameras, and drones, which he says contained all of his financial and medical records. Armu added that the damage to his home during the raid and value of the seized equipment is roughly $25,000. At this point, I have no choice but to take legal action and try to get my equipment back and to seek reimbursement for the damage, he said. Armu said he took some material down from his site to defuse the situation, but insists all his posts were legally obtained and legal to publish.
Our sponsor this week on In Dark Places is Burger King. Thank you, Burger King. Great food comes first. Every day, more than 11 million guests visit Burger King restaurants around the world, and they do so because our restaurants are known for serving high-quality, great-tasting, and affordable food. Founded in 1954, Burger King is the second largest fast food hamburger chain in the world. The original home of the Whopper, our commitment to premium ingredients, signature recipes, and family-friendly dining experiences is what has defined our brand for more than 50 successful years. Please visit bk.com for more information and a location near you.
And would I have to wait long if you made one Whopper with no pickle and no lettuce?
No, sir. Hold the pickle, hold the lettuce. Special orders don't upset us. All we ask is that you let us serve it your way.
Thank you, Burger King. Now, back to In Dark Places.
We can serve your roast beef Whopper fresh with every...
Anthony Hopkins happened upon a signed copy of the book he was searching for in a train station. In the early 1970s, Anthony Hopkins was slated to play Kostya in a film adaptation of The Girl from Petrovka. To prepare for the role, he set out to read the book, but was unable to find a copy in any bookstore despite a rigorous search. Then, as internet legend has it, while sitting in a London tube station, he noticed a copy of that very book that someone had left behind. When he opened it, he found that the book had also been signed by its author, George Pfeiffer.
The story was sent in by Anonymous. I had decided to see a hypnotherapist on a whim to see if they could help me remember some things. I Googled ones in the area and decided on one a few pages in, for I don't know what reason. Part of working with a hypnotherapist is to spend the first session telling them about yourself to establish trust. I'm telling her about an accident I had where I was impaled on a fence post. Since it was a relatively recent event that had a huge impact on my life. As soon as I said it, she's like, "That was you?" The hospital system where I live did a documentary on it. I guess since it was such a weird injury, which was played late at night along with other stories from their hospital. Kind of like an infomercial. So I decided she had seen it. I said, "Yeah, you saw the video?" Her jaw dropped. She said, "I'm in the video. I'm the nurse with so-and-so, mask on." Turns out her day job is as a surgical nurse, and she was in the surgery that saved my life. Pretty strange coincidence.
How about this one? John Wilkes Booth's brother, say that 5 times fast, saved Abraham Lincoln's son from death. John Wilkes Booth and Abraham Lincoln reportedly had a coincidental family connection long before Booth shot Lincoln on that fateful day in April 1865. Booth's brother Edwin was a somewhat famous stage actor who ardently supported the Union during the Civil War. While in a train station in New Jersey, Lincoln's son, Robert Todd Lincoln, leaned up against a stopped train, nearly falling onto the tracks as it started up again. Edwin Booth grabbed him by the collar and saved him just in time. The younger Lincoln recognized his hero and wrote about the incident, but it wasn't until years later that Booth found out who he had saved. And that same son of Lincoln's witnessed 3 presidential assassinations. While it would be rare to be present for the death of any president, Robert Todd Lincoln was in some way present for not 1, not 2, but 3 presidential assassinations. Though he wasn't there at the theater during his father's fateful shooting, he was rushed to the deathbed and sat by his side until the elder Lincoln passed away. Later, he was an eyewitness to the killing of President James A. Garfield. Finally, in 1901, Lincoln was in nearby Buffalo, New York, at the invitation of President William McKinley when that president was fatally shot.
Here's another one by Anonymous. I don't know if it's the same Anonymous or if it's that guy from V for Vendetta. Who knows? I needed a lighter, but it wasn't urgent, so I forgot about it. I go for a walk. I stop briefly to look around and find a full lighter. I'm in a parking lot, and there is no place left. Usually I wait for someone to leave and take his spot, but there were too many other guys already waiting. With all the cars waiting, it would take me even 15 minutes to go out of the parking lot. I can't park elsewhere, and I can't miss my appointment either. So I'm here with at least 30 cars lined in front of me. I look around. No one seems to leave. Then I remember something to make magic happen. In between this, I realize I'm not worried about the situation. I'm detached. It's okay. So, half serious, I close my eyes for 2 seconds and I think, if only one could go. And I open my eyes. The car in the spot ahead of me cut me and left. I take his spot 5 meters ahead or behind, and it was for another guy. I closed my eyes for 2 seconds, but I didn't see him coming. I guess he was already in his car waiting for me. I don't know.
How about this one? One woman survived the Titanic, the Britannic, and Olympic shipwrecks. Little Violet Jessup was a nurse and ocean liner stewardess who earned the nickname Miss Unsinkable by surviving both the accidents of the Titanic in 1912, and its sister ship, the HMHS Britannic, which met the same fate in 1916. Jessup was also reportedly on board a third boat, the RMS Olympic, when it hit a warship, but unfortunately the Olympic stayed afloat. Hey, Violet, are you gonna get the message to stay off boats eventually? Thank you. One man missed 2 Malaysian air flights that crashed. In 2014, there were 2 tragic plane crashes involving Malaysian air flights. The first was shot down over Ukraine, and the second disappeared without a trace, somewhere over the Indian Ocean, in the greatest aviation mystery of all time. Beyond the fact that both incidents involved the same airline in such a short time span, there was another striking coincidence. Dutch cyclist Martin de Jong was scheduled to take both flights, but cheated death by bumping his ticket at the 11th hour when cheaper options became available. Holy mackerels.
This story is called Bite the Bullet. Henry Ziegland thought he had dodged fate. In 1883, he broke off a relationship with his girlfriend, who, out of distress, committed suicide. The girl's brother was so enraged that he hunted down Ziegland and shot him. The brother, believing that he had killed Ziegland, then turned his gun on himself and took his own life. But Ziegland had not been killed. The bullet, in fact, had only grazed his face and then lodged in a huge tree. Ziegland surely thought himself a lucky man. However, some years later, Ziegland decided to cut down the huge tree, which still had the bullet in it. The task seemed so formidable that he decided to blow it up with a few sticks of dynamite. The explosion propelled the bullet into Ziegland's head, killing him.
And then there's 10-year-old Laura Buxton, who released a red balloon, and another 10-year-old named Laura Buxton found it. In a story told on the WYNC podcast in 2001, a 10-year-old girl named Laura Buxton stood in her front yard with a red balloon. On the side of the balloon, she had written the words, "Please return to Laura Buxton," along with her address. She then released it into a strong wind. The balloon traveled roughly 140 miles south before descending and finally landed in the yard of another 10-year-old girl. The second girl's name, also Laura Buxton. After getting in touch and explaining the coincidence, the girls decided to meet and discovered a whole range of uncanny similarities. Not only did they look and dress alike, but both girls had 3-year-old chocolate labs, a gray rabbit, and a guinea pig. And both had brought their guinea pig to the meeting, unplanned. Holy mackerels!
So many of these weird occurrence stories like that, it's just crazy. I don't know how many times at work we'll be talking about someone we haven't seen in a while, and then they just pop up and come in and start talking to us. Hey, how you been? Stuff like that. Crazy. But that's about all the stories we got this week. If you've got a true scary story and you'd like to be a guest on the show, send an email to indarkplacespod@hotmail.com. We'll see you again right here next week. God bless you. About synchronicity. About synchronicity. About synchronicity. About synchronicity. I don't know if this would count as being a synchronicity or whatever. I don't know if this would count as being a synchronicity.
This next story of
Synchronicity. Still can't say it.